Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Distinguished session chair, respected speakers, colleagues, guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It's really a great pleasure today to be joining you at the third International Dialogue of Civilization and Tolerance conference here in Abu Dhabi under the theme that is not only technological but also deeply human. The impact of new media and artificial intelligence on family and community. My remark today under the title, The Human Side of Machines, AI, Emotional Intelligence, and the Future of Family and Community. I would like to mention that I came into this topic from several connected perspectives. As an academic in digital business and information systems, as a researcher and educator in the digital transformation area, artificial intelligence and innovation, as a consultant and a corporate trainer, advisor to the media, where actually I often explain technology and innovation to a wider public over more than 10 years in the Middle East and globally. Across all of these different roles, one lesson has become very clear to me, which is technology is not only about technical discussions. It's more than that. Every platform change behavior. Every algorithms change attention. Every digital system changes relationships. And every intelligent machine that enters our home, classrooms, workplaces, and media spaces enters into the emotional and social structure of our lives. For many years, when we discussed artificial intelligence, the conversation was mostly about the technical specification of these systems. We asked how accurate is the model, how fast is the system, and how much can it automate, how much data it can process. But today we need to ask a deeper question, not only how intelligent machines are becoming, but also what kind of human relationships are being shaped around these kind of technologies. This is why the phrase, the human side of machine, is so important. Machines do not have family. They don't have also specific culture. Machines do not experience dignity, belonging, memory, or even moral responsibility. Yet machines are increasingly participating in human communication. Communication is the key element of our interactions as humans. AI, now they write messages for us, they recommend what we watch, and also they shape news that we see. They help our students to learn, professionals to think, and also they respond to questions. And sometimes they even appear to comfort people when they feel alone. This is the new reality. Artificial intelligence is no longer only behind the screen. It's part of our social interface between people. And this creates both opportunity and responsibility. My first reflection on this is AI can simulate emotional intelligence, but it cannot carry emotional responsibility. Today, AI systems, sentiments, personalize language, and also generate responses that appear caring and empathetic. They can say, I understand how you feel. They can even adapt and produce comforting words. But emotional intelligence is not only the ability to produce the right sentence. It's actually more than that. The emotional intelligence requires judgment, compassion, cultural experience, lived experience toward another human being. And this is the real connection. A machine may detect sadness, but it does not carry compassion. A machine may recognize anger, but it does not understand dignity. Also, a machine may imitate empathy, but it does not belong to a family, community, or even a civilization. This distinction is matter. An emotional AI can support education, accessibility, customer experience, and many use cases, of course. But we should never confuse emotional simulation with authentic human connection. AI can support empathy, but it should not outsource empathy. My second reflection is about family and community attention. The real competition today is not between human and machine, I believe. It's between human attention and algorithmic attention. In traditional family and community and our life, relationships were built through presence, physical presence, at the dinner table, in the majlis, classroom, workplace, neighborhood, school, community gatherings. But today these spaces still matter, but are increasingly interrupted by notifications, short videos, recommendation systems, and even AI-generated content. A person can physically present with a family, but emotionally absent because of the screen. A child can be sitting in a living room, but mentally living inside algorithmic world. A young person can receive more feedback from maybe a platform than their parents, teachers, or maybe even the community leaders. This is not only a technology issue, this is a social design issue. Because attention is not only small, it's a small matter, it is actually a foundational relationship. Where we place our attention, we place our care. And where we place our attention, we place our identity, and where actually define our priorities. So the family question is not only how much screen time is acceptable, the deeper question is who is designing the emotional rhythm of our homes? Is it the family? Is it the school, community, platforms, or the algorithms? My third reflection comes from the information system design. As I mentioned, I am a specialist in that area. And we are trained to ask who is the user and what requirements we need to fulfill in the system and how can the system satisfy those requirements. But AI changes completely this question. The user is no longer the person clicking on the screen. The user is also a child influenced by recommendation algorithms, the family affected by the platforms, and the teacher is responding to the AI-generated work. The community shaped the digital narratives. The society living in these consequences. So therefore, in the age of artificial intelligence, we need to move from requirements to society requirements, from user requirement to society requirements. And this is what we call the socio-technical challenge of AI. We are not designing system for individual users, but rather for a complete society. A system may be very efficient for users, but harmful for the family or the society. And this is something we need to be aware about. An AI agent may answer quickly, but weaken human judgment if used without awareness. This is why digital literacy is no longer enough. We need now digital emotional literacy, and this is something I believe the panel today will address and discuss in details. Digital emotional literacy means understanding how AI and a new media influence feelings, behavior, identity, trust, and relationship. I would like to mention that as we are here in Abu Dhabi, in the UAE, more broadly, this conversation has a special meaning. The UAE has become a global environment for artificial intelligence, digital government, smart services, innovation, and future readiness. But the deeper value of the transformation is not only the technological progress, It also requires how people can strengthen their relationship with their institutions, support education, protect family values, preserve cultural identity within an open and globally connected society. I would like to conclude by proposing final 3 principles for the human sides of machine. Human dignity. This is the first principle. People should never be treated only as data points, users, or maybe consumers of engagement. They are parents, children, learners, professionals, members of the community. The second principle is we need to think about the society requirement. AI design should consider not only what users want, but also the family, schools, and the global society requirements and the cultural aspects of that. The third is responsible governance. The future of artificial intelligence cannot be left only to engineers or technology companies. It requires collaboration between universities, families, media, policymakers, civil society, and the industry. This is a must in order to have a successful and a positive impact of artificial intelligence. Ladies and gentlemen, artificial intelligence will continue to become more powerful. New media will continue to evolve. Digital platforms will continue to shape the way we communicate, learn, and work. The question is not whether we can stop the transformation. The real question is whether we can guide it with wisdom. So let AI help us to learn, but not to replace curiosity. Let the AI help us to communicate, but not to replace listening. Let AI help us to analyze, but not to replace the judgment. We discuss the human sides of machines. My final message will be very simple. We need to think broader than the silos that we use to work and collaborate, and we need to collectively design the future of our society geared by these technological interruptions. Thank you very much and wish you a successful discussions and continuous learning from these events today. Thank you very much and have a good day.
Thank you very much for your very insightful words.
Thank you.
I'd like you to join us here in the panel, and we're very lucky and fortunate today to have a broad group of panelists, each coming from their own discipline. Let me start first with Lena El-Balushi. She's a social activist and jurist dealing with human rights, and she will probably give us the angle of these questions that were just addressed from the legal perspective. Luis Rodriguez with us will give us the dimensions coming from the, I wouldn't say just technical, but I would say the practical side. Luis is heading or has been involved with the AI questions for the last, I don't want to give out your age, but a couple of years. And he has been exploring these questions not only in the UAE, he was also stationed priorly in Africa and elsewhere, and he does or goes around with these questions with big corporations dealing with fintech. And we also have with us Dr. Jeffrey Bradshaw, who's visiting us from the US, and he will give us some of his takes from his background. Is from the Institute of Human and Machine Cognition. And if it's all right with you, just one word about myself. My name is Avi Weber, and I'm a law professor in Israel dealing with AI and with regulations, and I will interact following your presentations, perhaps by a note or one on my side. So Lena, if I may, I'd like to start with you of how can artificial intelligence be designed to better understand and respond to human emotions intelligence?
Thank you so much for this wonderful introduction, and I'm happy to be here amongst these distinguished speakers, and I'm really happy to be amongst all of you today. So I think I'd like to redirect the question just a bit. I'd like to start with this question. What is the purpose? Are they building these AI machines for financial gain, or is it for productivity, or is it for genuine human benefit? So every design every design that is created is a moral choice. What is it trying to achieve? So for AI to truly understand and respond to human emotional intelligence, it must be, of course, culturally sensitive. Mr. Luis can talk to us later about the Africa example in Ethiopia that he provided. But it must be, culturally sensitive. Does it understand different emotional expressions from different traditions and backgrounds and communities? Does it actually acknowledge something, or does it jump straight into problem solving? And I'm sure all of us have used AI and understand what I'm talking about. Does it, know its limits? I mean, I'll give you a really interesting example that I've read recently, or I've heard recently. Does anyone know the psychotherapist? She's from Belgium. Her name is Esther Perel. Has anyone heard of her? Look up her work. She's really interesting, and she deals a lot with couples therapy. And she recently conducted a couples therapy with a man and his AI companion. So here the question is, what is this AI trying to achieve? Is it replacing connection? If someone has an AI companion, that means that they're not connecting with others in the real world. That means they're unable, or are they unable to? Is it easier to have an AI companion? And what are the moral ethics behind this? I find it to be, a bit exploitative, if you will. And so it goes back to this question: what is the purpose? I think I'd like to end on this note. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Professor Bradshaw, we heard in the opening presentation a very important question mark that was presented, and that is about are these technologies going to enhance our interpersonal connections, or are they going to be there to reduce? Are we going to experience more of this Belgium case where people will elapse into or even worst case collapse into parallel virtual worlds? Or can we actually use this AI to improve our communications and to create, as we heard in the opening speeches this morning, a better society?
Thank you for that question. Of course, we all use our cell phones either in video chat mode or phone mode or other modes or text modes or email, and I would be completely lost in terms of my interpersonal connections here on the other side of the world if I didn't have them to do those things. The question is whether we're looking through them as a tool or whether or not we become over-reliant, as you talked about. There's one of the biggest concerns I have. I've been doing human-centered computing since the very early days, for more than 44 decades. Not quite 40 decades, but 4 decades. And so I'm always looking at things through the human perspective and with an eye to what the long-term effect is. There's a very famous media specialist named Marshall McLuhan, and he said, we shape our technologies and then they shape us afterward. And so the one question that very much concerns me in terms of enhancing those things is the fact that many of the new media and AI that we interact with is specifically designed to be addictive, and we are dependent on governance issues and on social pressure of the big media companies to reduce those addictive algorithms. There's recently some big legal cases on that aspect where it was admitted. That's not going to stop. So one question is there a way, and this is a technology interest that I have, that we can produce external regulation of those technologies independent of the self-regulation which we're trying to enforce upon the big AI companies and the new media companies? And I think the answer is yes. And I think that we need to not over-rely on the just the governance aspects, on social pressure and governmental pressure, but also on technology, building better AI, as it were, that has the ability to regulate what we see and what we do for our families, for our organizations, for our faith communities and others. I like this statement by a member of a faith community of which I'm part. Garrett W. Gong said, "Neither profit-motivated technology companies nor politically motivated governments can be left to determine society's AI moral compass." I'll also say another big question I have in that regard is the problem of de-skilling and over-reliance. De-skilling, just bluntly put, is do the technologies make us dumber? Do they make us less smart through our use? And over-reliance, of course, is letting the machines do things for us that we ought to be doing ourselves. There's a lot of nuances in that. Obviously, there's a lot of things they help us to do. But when we rely on machines to do the initial brainstorming, to do the initial mental work, when we're about to do a creative act of writing or thinking or interpersonal relations without taking into consideration our own point of view and what we know as a human being, that is being over-reliant. And when we design AI or new technologies in a way that increases addiction or de-skills us, then we're also doing a very inhuman thing. A friend of mine, I'll just point you to a study, his name is Christopher Nossel, recently did a study of an interesting technology, and then I'll quit, where he took a particular navigation device, it was a mapping program, and he restructured it. And so it did not increase dependence, and he was able to show an increased skilling effect of over 19% by just the way that software was designed. So we need to use technologies like that to increase human relations, to increase our skills, and to reduce our reliance on just what we get from the big companies.
Thank you very much for your comments. I'd like to address the following question to Louise. How can financial, technological, and research institutions collaborate to ensure responsible AI innovations?
It's a very interesting question. As you said, I've been in AI for well, not 4 decades yet, but I'm going on that direction. And before, when we used to say AI used to mean, especially in the financial world, used to mean fraud detection, used to mean help your clients be protected. Then it passed to how can I easily give a loan to somebody. And then AI meant back then, let's analyze massive amounts of data, as you heard at the beginning, and be able to help people, to get access to finance, for example. And how can you get finance to people that the traditional credit system is not able to do it? If you look at Africa, I spent a lot of time in Nigeria. When I went there back in 2015, there was 2 billion people in the world without formal access to credit. And that number has been reducing in Africa, in India also. And this is all thanks to AI. It's thanks to machine learning algorithms that are able to score people at scale and are able to do what traditional banks cannot do, because the cost structure of banks does not allow to help these people that are getting a loan of, I don't know, $150. This is the advantages, right? And then if you think about the ethics on how all of this is built, these algorithms, they're built by the people, and people have different ethics and different ways of looking at it. And what the regulation did on the financial space is that it forces these banks to be able to explain why somebody did not get a credit, why somebody got rejected to enter. We were talking just before the panel, getting into a country, and you might get rejected. And why were you rejected? Do you know, or is it a black box? So regulation, for sure, what it needs to do to help AI is to learn from the financial world and to start implementing the same strategic options that we're implementing with the financial system, because it's as important or potentially more important than the impact of the financial world. So we need to explain how AI works, being it machine learning, traditional sense, the clustering algorithms, supervised, unsupervised, or these new fancy LLMs that you speak with them, and they're going to teach you how to, I don't know, the example before, if you ask an LLM how to cook an Ethiopian dish, it's going to, if it's Australian in the US, it's going to tell you how to cook the Ethiopian dish with a West perspective. If you ask in a Chinese LLM, it's going to tell you how to cook an Ethiopian dish with a Chinese perspective. So it's very important for the regulation to find a way to help these companies go in the right direction, because companies are profit motivating and they will not, by default, help humanity if they are going to make more money, right? They are going to choose whatever is the option to make more money. So I think I'm going to end there. We all need to work together. The regulation needs to be put there, especially with AI and emotional AI. The companies, ideally, they should go in the right direction, but I don't think they will, and you can see that when you use Instagram, TikTok, and all these nice AI algorithms. And then in the financial space, I think is a great place to learn from.
Thank you very much once again for your comments. I'd like to address another question to Dr. Bradshaw, if I may, and that is, what's the role of empathy playing, or how does empathy plays an important role in the development of human-centered AI technologies and systems?
Thank you. I thought Dr. Anas, in his introductory remarks, said it perfectly, that they are there to simulate empathy, and empathy is a wide umbrella term that affects all kinds of qualities that humans possess: caring, loving, helpfulness, and so forth, that we can use. And to the degree we can put those characters, simulate those characteristics inside the machine, there's nothing wrong with it. And I think it's a good thing. It helps us to be able to interact naturally with those machines, just like certain visual design techniques help us to be able to interact well with those machines. What is worrisome about empathy is when it goes the other direction, when you see humans investing the idea that the machine can be empathetic towards them. The romantic relationships that you hear between especially young adults and machines, the particular worries that some may have that if you pull the plug on the machine, it's going to cause the AI pain to be disconnected, even though the machine may express pain. We need to be very careful to be sure to know that machines are machines, and they are not humans. Yesterday I heard someone speak in this place about the increasing efforts by Disney and other entertainment companies to make humanoid robots that are increasingly real, that are warm, that if you pinch them they'll say ouch and so forth. To me, that's a particularly dangerous tendency, especially with children, because if they start to think of those things as real, that gets very confusing for children. On the other hand, if adults start to interact with things that don't have a very strong red line between what is a machine and what is a human being or other living creature, then having more toys that look like humans is going to become treating more humans more like toys, and I'm not in favor of that. So empathy is a great thing to simulate, but we ought to make a bright line so that people know what is a machine and what is not, especially with children.
Thank you very much. And speaking about lines, I'd like to turn back to Lena and ask her about her thoughts about ethical considerations coming and looking into these aspects that we're covering in this panel. So if...
Yes, of course. So in the Catholic world, actually, just recently in May, His Holiness Pope Leo XIV has just released what they call an encyclical. An encyclical, for those of you who do not know, is the highest form of moral teaching. And it was in regards to AI. And one of the things he said was, a more moral AI is not enough if that morality is determined by a few. And I wholeheartedly agree with that, mainly because who decides what the ethical implications are? According to whose morals is it set up? So if we have AI currently working to create deep relationships that are literally romantic relationships, where are the ethics here? Some people will say, oh, it's okay, we're generating money, we're hiring a few people, they can use those, blanket kind of statements. But in reality, imagine the harm that it's causing to people when they are in a romantic relationship with a machine. I find that extremely problematic. Every design choice reflects a vision for humanity. there are consequences. In this world where we all live together and we all coexist, every single action we do and every single word we say has a ripple effect on all of us. Us as humans, we are not born separately from one another. We're actually very interdependent. We affect each other. We can. I mentioned in one of our panels yesterday, we're talking about coexistence. And in terms of coexistence, what we do can literally affect others. We can harm one another, and narratives can actually also program each other. So, for example, speaking of which, ISIS has used AI to analyze online behavior, to identify emotionally vulnerable individuals and send them personalized recruitment messages. So this is why having proper ethical standards and guardrails are not optional. It is a necessity because it can literally harm vulnerable individuals that have fell prey to these things. So, and in terms of, when it comes to human dignity, humans in general are dignified human beings. Every religion has said so. In Islam, for example, we are, as humans, born with complete dignity, and with that dignity comes a high moral responsibility. We call it in Arabic khilafa. In English, it is stewardship. What does that mean? That means all of us here in this room have a moral responsibility of taking care of this earth and taking care of our fellow human beings, because what we do will affect them. So we can't just say, to each their own, and it's okay, it's making money, and we can't fight the wave. Don't fight the wave. I'm all for it. A part of me loves AI, I'm not gonna lie, especially with research and stuff. It can really help dig through a lot of data. But we need to use it ethically, and we need to have proper frameworks set in place and proper laws that deter others from exploiting humans. And so protecting the vulnerable is a non-negotiable. So, and I think I'd like to end this note with mentioning something else that could also be a bit problematic when it comes to this. Is, for example, in Islam, we have something called وَلَا تَجَسَّسُوا. Have you, to all the Muslims here, you know what I'm talking about, right? There's a clear prohibition against violating someone's privacy. What are we doing with AI? Is it violating our privacy? Is it spying on us? I mean, there are a lot of ethical things that we have to consider. So are we building systems that actually help humans have a better life, or are they diminishing their lives? So, for example, I love to give the example of in Sharjah, not too long ago, they have shortened the work week, right? For people to actually be able to go back to their families and spend more time with family. Is AI doing this for us? Shouldn't that be the purpose of this incredible machine? Shouldn't it help me have more, have productive work, but also more time with my family and more quality time with my family? So these machines should be there to actually serve our lives, not harm us. And I think that's the vision that we need to keep in mind when it comes to AI. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Would you like to make another comment in between?
Yes, I greatly appreciated the comments we've just heard, and just want to build on that a little bit. I think ethics is a very complex issue. On the one hand, I believe that we would be, my faith tradition is the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and as I look at what I know of Islam, I would guess it's probably 100% on those core ethics, what is called an anthropic company, the constitutional principles. The thing that's difficult is when you get down to specifics, it becomes very hard to make them universals in the same way sometimes. And my problem with that is mainly that power on those going beyond the broad constitutional principles is concentrated in the hands of a few large companies. And so technology-wise, one of the things that I'm very passionate about is being able to govern technologically, and not simply through law, in ways that allow each community, each family, each individual, each faith group to be able to build in those specific guardrails that are important for them, and not simply rely on what we get from those who develop the frontier models. So on the one hand, I'm all for the constitutional principles, I'm all for governance, I'm all for educating people to use it wisely. I'm also for developing kinds of technology that will allow different communities and individuals to define their own guardrails within that technology rather than relying on a few powerful groups.
Thank you very much. I'd like to turn back to Louis and ask a question about the risks and opportunities of integrating emotional intelligence into AI systems. So we heard a lot about the concerns before, where this could go bad. You brought before the good example where AI can actually help people that are out of the system access basic rights or basic commodities or basic products that all of us use. And I think that's a great achievement of the AI. But I'd like to hear from your end, especially coming from the field of financing, what can you tell us a bit more about the risks and the opportunities of AI and, of course, emotional intelligence integrated? Thank you.
Yeah, it's picking a bit on the ethics and it's very interesting because the opportunities are massive, but the risk, one of the risks, is, as was said before, there are less than 10 companies in the US that control whatever is AI. It's probably like 20 companies in the world that are at the forefront, if you consider China a bit, very little in Europe, and in the US, and a bit here, almost none in Africa, almost none in Latin America. So that is a big risk. The opportunity is huge because if you're able to have a system that understands the human on the other side and what is happening with that person, that effectively means, for example, that you can understand in a call center that a person is distressed and he must be distressed about something. And you should not address the distress on that call, but the AI today can very easily redirect that person to a human with a summary of the conversation and tell it, look, please help this person. There is a very famous company here in the UAE that solves more than 50% of their cases by AI in less than a second and with an NPS. And NPS means Net Promoter Score, which basically means if people are happy with the service, more than 50% of the help cases with AI. And this means what? Means that it's able to understand from the text what is the problem that the person has. Many of these problems are, where is my invoice? And of course it says, here's the invoice. That you don't need intelligence for anything. But then when people start complaining that something was not delivered and they start using foul language to the AI understands the person is upset and then sends it to a human. So that's a massive opportunity, is in the support space, huge. Another huge opportunity, you were talking about the person in a relationship with AI. But another opportunity is at 2 a.m., somebody is distressed with life and they call somebody, and that phone number can tell them, oh, I understand the problem you have. Today nobody's available. Please read this audiobook or read this article. And the AI can help you when you're in a very difficult situation to give you resources. On the other side, of course, it can also give you the bad resources, and that's what we were talking about earlier. The opportunity is really understanding humans. The opportunity is what is called in the tech space robotic process automation, which basically means I look at my processes in my company and I use AI to make them faster, to make them leaner, to make them cheaper. And that helps humans have more time, as was said before. The challenge on the other side is also, again, if these AIs understand my emotional state, they also understand that I'm distressed. And if somebody, like a big company, I won't say many names, but all this becomes that sell stuff online. If they can understand that you're distressed, they can also tell you, here's a book that you can buy. It was $20 yesterday and it's $10 today. Maybe you should buy it right now because it will finish in 5 minutes, this promotion, and you're going to buy it. So AI can become a sales machine at a scale that we never saw before. And we go back again to the regulation we need to make sure that we don't allow these companies to do it. But again, the opportunity is crazy. I'm a technologist. Today you can build applications so fast that you could not build before. But how do people feel when they're using these things? What are you doing to these people? And that's really, really important. Again, I think it's a balance. It's a balancing act. Every tool every new tool, and I'm not a Luddite, right? I'm not going to complain, and I'm a technologist, so I cannot complain about a new technology. We need to know how to use them, and we need to ensure that the risks are accounted for. And I'm a big fan of regulation, because this type of thing, if it does not get regulated, and luckily now in the US, I just heard that the new administration wants to see the models before they get released. So there is, voluntarily, unfortunately, yes, but it's a step, because
before they were completely opposed.
Correct, and I think that it's a step, and we need to consider these things, because this will be a technology that will change the world as it's changing the world, and it will change the world forever. And we will need to, all of us, think together, what is AI? What is AI for us?
Can I add something?
Yes, please.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'd like to just add that AI, I think, is a mirror of us, basically. So what we put out there comes back to us. So you decide how you want to use it, and including the companies that create it, in my humble opinion. So, for example, I recently discovered that there's an application that completely depends on AI for mental health care called WooBot, something like that, and it's just to provide access to mental health care, to make it available for people that are unable to access mental health care, which is a great thing. This is the kind of AI that we want to see out there, but not the exploitative. So again, it's a mirror of who we are. It's humans first. You decide what to do with it, and then we see the results, whether it's negative or positive. That's it. Thank you.
So, running out of time, I'd like to kind of try and conclude this session and give perhaps a word or two on my end. I think what we're missing in the panel here today is a historian. If we would have had an historian sitting with us, he would be able to look at us in a very puzzled face and not really understand what we're all worried about. We worry about new technologies, as you said, that represent new opportunities for humanity. Human beings have always been evolving, always came up with cutting-edge technologies for their times, but these technologies always brought human beings into, in a way, a moral question about their own annihilation. Think about what happened in 1945 with the introduction of the atomic bomb. Humans were able to harness and create something unnatural that would destroy nature. And yet again, we've managed to evolve beyond. I'd like to thank the organizers of this conference deeply for bringing us all here together from different sides of the world to recognize that at the end of the day, if we look at things optimistically, in a creative and responsible way, we can all figure out ways to introduce tools, whether it is regulation, whether these are soft laws, whether this is voluntary, compulsory. That doesn't really make a lot of a difference. What is really important is to ask the right questions and to responsibly address them. And I'm very thankful that we have also here a very comforting perspective of things, that we all look into what defines us as humans, going back to our cultures and religion, and we see that from any point that will come into this discussion, whether we're speaking from the Islamic tradition, Christian tradition, or Jewish tradition, will all come to the same conclusions, that we have this mutual responsibility. And with this optimistic point, I'd like to end today's panel. Thank you very much for your participation, and I hope that all of us will leave this conference trying to, in our very small abilities, to contribute for a better and more responsible use of AI. Thank you very much.